Greetings, dear students. Today we will be answering some selected questions from the chunk of questions that you guys sent in, and I want to ask you to keep on sending your questions, and I'll be answering them as time goes on. And from the selected questions, or from the questions that you guys sent, I've been able to select 4 questions, AC questions from money and banking that we are going to answer today, and the other questions will be answering them in subsequent videos. I want you to keep your questions coming in, and make sure you like the page and download the video, share the video, and make sure you leave a comment. If you have a question to ask, you leave it in the comment bar, and make sure to hit the notification button so that you'll be informed whenever a new video is uploaded on this channel. So keep trusting this channel, and make sure you also adapt what you get from these videos with your book work, and also do expanded research so that it will help you to better study. So we're going to start with the very first question. I'm going to read through all the 4 questions that were sent to me by you students, and we have the very first. Money is what money does. Discourse. Money is what money does. Discourse. And we have the next. Money is defined by its functions. Money is defined by its functions. Discourse. The next question is, how has the introduction of money solved the problem of trade by barter? How has the introduction of money solved the problem of trade by barter? The next is, how does inflation affect the efficiency at which money performs its functions? How does inflation affect the deficiency at which money performs its functions? So we are going to be treating these questions. We'll start with the very first. First, I want you to understand that question number 1 and question number 2, they are talking about the same thing. It's just different ways of asking the same, or of posing the same questions. It's just the same thing. Money is what money does. Discourse. Money is defined by its functions. Discourse. They're talking about the same thing. It's like using different words to actually make the same sense. So if a question like this is posed to you, how do you approach the question? I want us to understand, in the previous videos I was able to explain to you how to approach an essay question of this nature, or an essay question generally. We know that an essay question is divided into 3 parts. We have the introduction, we have the body, and we have the conclusion. Now, how do you develop your introduction? The introduction and the conclusion are mostly the nightmares of students, because they don't know how to develop that. The body well is just the subject matter, but the introduction, the best way to approach your introduction, or to develop your introduction, is to pick out the keywords, the concept, the key concept of the question. You define the concept. And a question that has more than 2 concepts, you have to define both concepts and relate both concepts in the light of the question. You see, so in a question that has just 1 concept, that you define that concept, and you want to give a brief background about that concept, and then relate it to the question that is being asked. So in question like this, we have money is what money does. Discourse. And money is defined by its functions. I said this is just the same thing. They are talking about the same thing. Now, how do we approach this question? The first thing is, we want to define our money. So you will define money. And in this case, you discover that it's just 1 concept. Now, you define money, and you want to give some background history or background story about money. In brief, you don't need to go into details, because make sure your introduction is not too lengthy as to not to bore the examiner. So you define money and give some background history. Maybe you want to give just some background history of money, and then you want to maybe state some types of money, and then you go, and then you create a transition statement. The transitional statement is merely a sentence that links the introduction to the body. You see, it tells the examiner the flow of the essay. So in this case, after defining my money and give a brief history about money, I would like to tell the examiner that the functions that money performs in the economy define money. So In other words, money is meant to perform these functions, and these functions make money what money is. And we're going to discuss these functions below, and then we move further now to discuss the functions of money. The very first function, we have the medium of exchange. I always advise learners or students to start with this particular function because it's the main, and it's the main function of money, the medium of exchange. When we talk about medium of exchange, simply means money helps us in the buying and selling of goods and services. It means, in other words, money helps us to actually sell those things we do not want and purchase those we want. Okay, so thanks to money we can buy and we can sell. The next we want to talk about the store of value. Money also performs the function of a store of value. So money helps us to store our value. It means with money we can actually store our wealth for future consumption. So if I have maybe a good harvest as a farmer today, I can sell the excess produce, sell them, and then save the money in the bank or in the safe and to use it in the nearest future. The next is money also serves as a unit of measurement. It means thanks to money we can now measure the value of certain goods. We cannot say that this good is more valuable than the other based on the amount of money that was used to purchase these goods. However, when we talk about value here, we mean the value in exchange, not necessarily the value in use. Okay, because there are two values here. We have the value in exchange and the value in use. So we are actually referring to the value in exchange. That's the amount of money used to buy that said good. The next is money also serves as a standard of deferred payment. Standard of deferred payment. Now, I want to talk about deferred payment. Deferred payment, in other words, simply means postponed payment, future payment. So money enables us to consume goods and services today to pay tomorrow. So money, it enables us to consume goods and services on credit for future payment. Thanks to money, that is possible. Money also serves as a medium of one-way payment. Now, to explain this point, I want us to understand that whenever a buyer goes to the shop to get, say, a good, maybe for instance, to get a pen, the layman on the street would say that there's only one person or there's only one payment there. In other words, it's just the buyer. It's only the buyer that pays. No, in that transaction of buying a pen from a shop, there are two payments. There's a two-way payments. There's just that the two payments are done in two different medium. Now, if I'm buying a pen from a shop, I am giving money, so I'm paying the seller using money. The seller is also paying me using the pen. So there are two-way payments there. Now, when we say money helps in one-way payment, what about one-way payment? Is when we pay without any good or any service rendered to us immediately or directly. You see. So money helps us to actually carry out such activity, like for instance, giving of gifts. We also have payment of taxes. You see, this one-way payment. So thanks to money, these are possible. So that in a nutshell, that is how to approach the question. Then you want to conclude by giving, giving two or three qualities of money that permit money to perform these functions. Money is able to perform these functions thanks to some qualities money possesses. For instance, the very first main and most important quality of money is general acceptability. Now, for money to perform all these functions, money must be generally accepted by those within that community. So it must be generally accepted. It must be a legal tender. The next is it has to be scarce. The reason why I would want to give you my phone to get money from you is simply because I can't pick money on the street like stones. Else, I won't give you my phone. I'll just go to the street and pick some money. So money can perform that function efficiently if it is scarce. Okay, now the next is it should be portable. You see, it should be easy, very easy for us to transport money from one place to another without any stress or calling people's attention. It also has to be durable for it to serve the purpose of a store of value. It has to be durable and must have stability in value. So the value of money should be relatively stable over a long period of time. So, and it also has to be durable. Means it has to be made up of very good materials that can last for a long period of time without depreciating. So, in a nutshell, that is how we approach that question. So, if you have any point you didn't understand, just drop it on the comment box and I will come to you. The next question we want to see is how has the introduction of money solved the problem of trade by barter? How has the introduction of money solved the problem of trade by barter? Now, this question, you discovered in this question now, this type of question has two concepts: money, trade by barter. So you want to define your money and you want to define trade by barter, and then you want to link both. So I'll define money being anything that is generally accepted as a medium of exchange and for the settlement of debt. Now, after defining money, I will not just go directly to define trade by barter. There's a linkage that I want to do. I want to create that relationship between two. So I want to tell the examiner, money was newly introduced into the economy. Before money was introduced, there was a system of trade that was existing known as trade by barter. Now I want to define my trade by barter. What is trade by barter? This is the system of trade where goods and services were exchanged for goods and services. See, so I explained now by telling the examiner that this system was very unpopular and there was a need for us to dump this system and introduce money because this system registered so many weaknesses, so many difficulties, and we are going to discuss these difficulties below. Now, so you go now to the body of the question. The very first difficulty there is double coincidence of want. So we are talking about the weaknesses now of trade by barter. Double coincidence of one. This was the main difficulty or weakness or limitation of this system. When we talk of double coincidence of want, we simply mean for two persons to trade in those days, one must have what the other wants and must want what the other has. So, for instance, if I have plantains, bunches of plantains, and I want fish, and some fishes, I would contact or I would actually be able to trade, but with the person who has fish and wants my plantain. That was not easy. It was quite a tedious task. So people had to move around looking for their double coincidence, which was not easy. It pushed people to double trade. Now we'll talk about double trade. It simply means, let's take for instance, I have bags of rice, and I want oil. So I have to look for someone who has oil and wants rice. So it's not easy to find such a person. But in that market, I found someone who wants rice, but the person has plantains. And in that same market, I found someone who wants rice and has oil. No, who wants plantains, and has oil. So what do? I give my rice to the person who has plantain and wants rice, and I'll take the person's plantain, and then I trade now, give the person who has oil and wants plantain, and I give the person the plantain and I take the oil. So I must have solved my problem. But that was not easy. So the next problem was the indivisibility of certain goods. There were some goods by their nature could not be divided to accommodate small scale trade. Take for instance a person who has, say, a live cow and he wants a bunch of plantain. There is no way he'll be willing to give out that full cow to get a bunch of plantain. And then there's also no way he will cut part of that cow to exchange for that plantain without killing the cow. So that was quite difficult. So some goods were practically indivisible. The next was the absence of a unit of measurement. there was no unit of measurement. It's possible that I struggle, maybe say luck smiles on me on that day and I'm able to find my double coincidence. I actually have my plantains and I want rice, and I finally find someone who has that rice and wants my plantain. The problem now will be, how then do we trade? How then do we measure the goods we are going to exchange? Now, how many bunches of plantain will I give to this person to get a bag of rice? So it becomes so difficult for us to actually come to an agreement. So that was the problem. The next also was the absence of storage of wealth. People could not store their value. Why? Because most of the goods and services that were produced in those days were mostly agricultural produce, mostly goods that were perishable, that could not last for a long time. So it was difficult for people to actually store their wealth. That was quite difficult. So due to all these difficulties, these weaknesses, there was a need for money to be introduced into the economy to actually solve these problems. Now we're going to see how the introduction of money has been able to solve these problems of trade by barter. So the introduction of money has been able to solve this problem of trade by barter thanks to the functions or the roles that money play in the economy. So you will now state these functions and try to identify the problem that this function of money was able to solve. So we start medium of exchange. Medium of exchange was able to solve the problem of double coincidence of want. Thanks to money, we don't need to look for a double coincidence again. If I have rice and I want oil, all I need to do is sell my rice, take the money and buy my oil. So thanks to money, that problem has been solved. Now, money also performed the function of a unit of measurement. That has solved the problem of the absence of a unit of measurement that was existing in the trade by barter system of trade. So thanks to money, we can now measure. So if I know this phone is worth 10,000 francs, I will be able to know how much bunches of plantain will I be willing to exchange, since I know the price of plantain too. So thanks to money, the problem of the absence of a unit of measurement was solved. Now, money also served as the store of value. That has solved the problem of the absence of a storage medium, the absence of a means of storage of storing of wealth that was existing in the barter system. So thanks to money, we can now store our wealth. So if I'm a farmer and I'm able to harvest 20 bunches of plantains, I don't need all those bunches today. So what do? All I need to do is sell the excess and then keep the money for the future. You see? So it's been so helpful. The next is money also serves as a standard of deferred payment. That has solved the problem of the absence of a standard of deferred payment. In the barter system, there was one weakness also, that was this absence of a standard of deferred payment. It was not possible in those days for people to take goods on credit. So it's not possible to say like, hey, give me a plantain and I'll give you cocoyams in the nearest future. It doesn't make sense. But thanks to money, money serves now as a standard of deferred payment. It's possible for us to consume today and pay tomorrow. So that's how we approach that question. It just solves everything. So the next question we're going to see, how does inflation affect the efficiency at which money performs its functions? How does inflation affect the efficiency at which money performs its function? Still again in this question, there are two concepts. Inflation, money. So, inflation, money. So, I'll still start here by defining my money. Let's find money. Money being anything that is generally accepted as a medium of exchange and for the settlement of debt. Now, when I explain that, I might not go directly, or maybe start by like after defining money, you state some of the functions. Say money performs the functions of the medium of exchange, standard of deferred payment, store of value, unit of measurement. But for money, I'm still continuing to explain the introduction. But for money to be able to perform these functions, the value of money has to be stable. There has to be some stability. the value of money. Now, go below and explain. Inflation being the persistent fall in the value of money. I said the persistent fall in the value of money. I know a lot of you say, but sir, inflation is a persistent increase in the general price level of goods and services. I know that. But you also should know that when the general price level of goods and services are persistently increasing, it means the value of money is persistently falling. So we can also define the inflation as the persistent fall in the value of money. Now, if the value of money is persistently falling, then it has to disturb the efficiency at which money performs its function. So you're going to go down there and explain each function of money and explain how inflation is able to disturb this particular function. We start with the medium of exchange. We say money performs the function of medium of exchange, meaning thanks to money we can exchange our goods and services. So we can buy what we don't want, or we can buy what we want, and sell what we don't want. Now, if inflation being the persistent fall in the value of money means that when inflation sets in and becomes so alarming, people will no longer be willing to exchange their goods and services for money. Why? Because money has lost its value. The only reason why I will give you my phone to accept your money is simply because money is valuable. Now, if I discover that the value of money starts falling and is persistently falling, then why would I want to give you my goods again to accept your money? I prefer to exchange goods and services for goods and services. And that's exactly what happened with Germany after the second Second World War. You see, there was a hyper inflation rate that struck Germany. It also struck Austria-Hungary to an extent where people started carrying bags of money and depositing on the street. Why? Because money has lost its value. It's only valuable when the value is a little bit stable. Now, when the value of money is persistently fall, I prefer to exchange my goods and services for goods and services. So in that case, money has actually disturbed, inflation has actually disturbed that particular function. So people will prefer to go back to trade by barter because the value of money has fallen. Now, store of value, the next function of money. We say store of value simply means people can keep stock money in the bank for future use. So they store their value in terms of money in the bank for future use. But now, hey, the value of money is persistently falling. So if the value of money is persistently falling, meaning if I carry money and keep in the bank, let's say if I carry $1 million and keep in the bank, and I want to take it in the next 1 year, I will take something like that will be worth, say, 10,000 francs. So hell no, I dare not keep my worth in terms of money because the value of money is falling. So I prefer to stock my worth. I prefer to stock my value in terms of assets rather than stocking in terms of money because the value of money is falling. So the inflation has actually disturbed that particular function of money. So people will not want to store their wealth in terms of money. They will prefer to store their wealth in terms of assets. The next unit of measurement. We said, thanks to money, we can be able to tell the value of certain goods based on the amount of money that we use to purchase these goods. But hey, remember we said inflation has set in. The value of money is persistently falling. As a result of this, money will no longer be able to give us a true value of a certain good. Remember in a state of hyperinflation where the prices of goods and services skyrocketed to times millions of percentages. It means a good that was sold for say 100 francs is now sold for 1 million francs. So can money be able to tell the true value of a good at this time? No. So money fails to perform that function efficiently. And the next, standard of deferred payment. We say thanks to money, we can be able to consume now and pay in the nearest future. But who will want to give his goods today for you to pay him money tomorrow when he is aware of the fact that the value of money is falling? So no one will want to give his or her goods again out on credit to be paid in monetary terms in the nearest future, knowing fully well that the value of money is falling. So money must have failed in performing that particular function. So in a nutshell, that's how you approach that question. So keep your questions coming. If you didn't understand any concept here or a particular concept here, just go to the comment section of this channel and leave your comments there, and I will get back to you to be able to clarify you. You can also join my Google Classroom. You can join my Google Classroom. You just need to download the Google Classroom and then contact me. I'll give you the code for you to join my Google Classroom and get the classes directly there. I want you to stay connected to this channel. Keep your questions coming, and I'll be answering all of these questions. You can also send in data response questions, and I'll give you the answers. So keep it coming. Make sure you share, like the video, and also hit the notification button so that you'll be notified whenever a new video is being uploaded. Thank you, and I wish you the very best. Bye bye.